the webinar will receive an email after the webinar, which will include a copy of all of the webinar slides and the video, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides for you to have. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Eric. He is our Director of Global Security Services here at TruShield, and he has over 15 years of experience in the cybersecurity industry.
Hey everybody, great to be on, walking through this this webinar with you today. You'll see here my contact information, my LinkedIn and my email address. If you have any questions after the fact about this content or anything to do with the cybersecurity industry, really, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love answering emails, and I love talking about our industry. So please, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if there's anything we can do for you. All right. So why don't we just jump right into it? You've met me. Now, who's TruShield? TruShield is a global cybersecurity firm based in the Washington, D.C. area, and we're providers of high-quality concierge security services. Everything from our flagship 24/7/365 managed security services to penetration testing, risk assessments, security consulting, architecture review, threat protection, incident response, you name it, we do it. Another thing to piggyback off of that is that TruShield is strictly a security company. We're not an IT shop. We don't do voice over IP. We don't have any other services that really cloud our offering. We are security professionals, and what we do is security through and through. So now let's get into what an MSSP is. And like most of these, we always like to start with what Gartner says. Gartner says an MSSP is a managed security service provider who provides outsourced monitoring and management of security devices and systems. Examples to include managed firewall, managed IDS, managed VPN, vulnerability scanning, antivirus services, etc. Here's where the real value play comes in. MSSPs are high availability security operations that provide 24/7/365 services designed to reduce the number of operational security personnel and tools, I'll insert that one, that an enterprise needs to hire, train, and retain in order to maintain an acceptable security posture. We'll get into each element of that description further down in this presentation. So why do you need an MSSP? At its core level, there's really two advantages to using an MSSP as opposed to hiring your own in-house security staff. The first is the security benefits, and the second is the budgetary benefits. So from a security benefit, access to high-quality security experts. As I'm sure everybody on this webinar knows, security experts are expensive, and hiring, and they're very in demand right now. Hiring them is an expensive proposition for any organization, and retaining them is even more important. Letting a security professional gain knowledge about your organization, having that knowledge in the hands of a select few, and then having them leave represents a significant risk to any organization out there. Pairing with an MSSP takes that knowledge and institutionalizes it, so that staff turnover and other staff issues are out of the hands of your organization. Additionally, having a fresh set of eyes around those high-quality experts. A nice little factoid that I like to throw out in these things is in situations of two major retail breaches that we saw in the news in the last year. After the fact, after the breach had occurred, payment data had been leaked. It was out there on the dark web. In both cases, when the forensic teams went in to do an analysis, inside of their SIM tools, there was indications of compromise. If the staff member who was in the seat and was watching the log feeds had caught that alert, they could have potentially prevented the breach, prevented the damage to their reputation, and prevented the costly triage work that goes along with that. So having staff who not only knows how to reduce the noise and knows how to tune the tools to your organization, but is also held under a strong SLA, is of just paramount importance to organizations. Outside of the staff, the threat intelligence feeds are huge. A good MSSP will have access not only to a variety of public and private threat intelligence feeds, but they'll also have access to lessons learned from their other clients. We'll speak specifically later about selecting an MSSP that has institutional knowledge around your industry. However, for the time being, suffice it to say, if you're a financial institution and your MSSP sees data targeting another financial institution in their network, they have the ability to proactively block that malicious traffic on your network before any breaches happen, before that traffic has even hit your industry. So there's just tremendous value to be leveraged through staff and through threat intel. From a budgetary standpoint, there's really a lot going on there that an MSP can answer. First and foremost, cybersecurity tools don't scale well. They're very expensive, and even having the best tools in the world are completely useless without having the right people implementing, monitoring, and maintaining them. Staff costs are huge in this space because somebody needs to be watching your network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to ensure that you're adequately protected. Your attackers aren't breaching you during business hours and finding out that the data was leaked from your network to a sinkhole in China 24 to 48 hours after the fact is valuable, but it doesn't actually prevent the breach from happening. Another fun little factoid there. The largest amount of malicious traffic that hits gateways inside of the U.S. takes place in the week between Christmas and New Year's. Obviously, your attackers know your schedule. They know when your staff might be light. They know when you might be off the ball, and that's ultimately when they hit. So having somebody there 24/7, 365 is a huge value to any organization. So hopefully by now you're seeing the benefits of an MSSP. How do we choose the right one? And that's really what this presentation will focus on. Simply put, the right MSSP is somebody who can meet and exceed the current and future needs of your organization on time and on a predictable budget. The right MSSP is not only providing a service, but also fills a trusted advisor role in your organization. They understand your business. They understand what your needs are. They understand the landscape of the security industry, and they're in a unique position to make recommendations that will not only meet your business needs, but will also meet your needs to be protected. Where this proposition becomes complicated is in first determining what your own needs are. Before you can select an organization that can meet your needs, you need to understand what you actually need. The following slides will explain in some detail the process in assessing your needs and then aligning them with the capabilities of an MSSP. So first and foremost, the decision process. Self-evaluation, identify providers, evaluate providers, and then ultimately select and implement a provider. Selecting an MSSP is an important decision for your company, and it usually represents both a significant financial investment and staff investment in ensuring a successful deployment. If not properly planned, the results can be wasteful and result in a failure to meet the needs of your organization from a security perspective. So self-evaluation. You should always start by identifying what your needs are. Your organization should have some objective in mind problem you're trying to solve via a managed service provider. Your objective should not be, I want to select an MSSP. It should be more focused than that. It should be something like, I want to be compliant with PCI DSS. I want my security to be monitored 24/7 by 365. Or I want to effectively manage my existing security devices, leveraging an existing investment that your organization made in some security devices or tools. Many times, these objectives are driven by regulations, PCI, NCUA, FFIEC, ISO, or others. In some cases, your clients, your corporate partners, or some regulatory authority may have very specific requirements that you're trying to meet with your security operation. Others may just want to see your information protected before they entrust it with you, and that you don't introduce any third-party risks into the environment. If are specifically driven by a regulatory authority, try to identify what key controls you need help implementing. That can always be very valuable in selecting an MSP that has experience around those controls and around those compliancy requirements. In addition to the specific tasks you're trying to accomplish, your needs assessment should evaluate your organization's availability of internal resources. speaks directly back to the 24/7 by 365 piece of the puzzle. The critical aspects that many overlook is a mid-sized organization has the same challenges as a large organization, but doesn't have anywhere near the number of IT staff. If your IT staff is small, establishing a relationship with an MSSP that can also provide proactive monitoring or proactive triage is definitely of tremendous value. This also allows your IT staff to focus on what their tasks and projects are that are key to your business. From a timeline standpoint, it's very important to identify what your timeline is. In some cases, senior management comes down, I'm sure in IT we've all been in this position, and says, hey, you need to do this, and you have the next quarter to do it. And in that case, a solution must be implemented that's both operational but also very quick to deploy. This actually occurs in quite a few financial and legal institutions and spaces, or a new client will come down and almost force compliance to a specific set of regulations onto that organization before data is entrusted with them. Having a provider who has familiarity against a large number of different compliance requirements is of tremendous value to just about any organization. Next up, budgetary limitations. Put simply, how much can you afford? How much is it going to cost, and what can the organization bear? Obviously, your budget is a key factor in down selecting vendors and MSSPs and then making a final decision. Even if you have a large budget for accomplishing this objective, it still may be a limiting factor. Note that at all stages of the game, you're not in full financial proposal evaluation mode. Your need here is to simply understand what your budget is and what your budgetary needs are. So the key here is to prioritize. Taking the needs, from a compliance standpoint, from a budget standpoint, and from a service delivery standpoint, and really prioritizing them. Let's say your organization had a requirement to implement PCI compliance within the next 30 days. The risk there to not achieving that is significantly high. Since 30 days is an aggressive timeline, achieving PCI compliance would be your first priority. Budget may be your second. Future service delivery through 24/7 by 365 monitoring may be your third. Developing a matrix and just really mapping this out is very valuable in selecting and identifying providers. So we'll move right into how we go about identifying providers. The first key piece of the puzzle is performing research on the industry. In utilizing industry research, one can effectively improve how you go about selecting your MSSP. Organizations such as Gartner and Forrester Research are constantly evaluating different MSP providers and can provide valuable feedback. Based on markets and industries they operate within. So the real key there is to be able to pinpoint one that best suits your needs in the business space. They also take the time to look for new and up-and-coming MSSPs. It can also be useful for the future in evaluating your existing service against new service providers. Simply put, they're out there and they're looking at what's in the marketplace at all times and providing the best solutions for specific industries. If you're strapped for time and you don't have resources to evaluate multiple providers, using industry research can really help. The other place to go solicit feedback about providers is really inside your peer group. A good indication for the selection process is getting feedback from other companies inside of your market that have had experience with other providers in the past. Obviously, TruShield has demonstrated successes in the areas we play, and any other MSP should be able to demonstrate similar value around client success stories inside their industry. Peer group feedback is also important for understanding the process other companies took for selecting an MSSP and determining exactly how another organization reached their ultimate decision. A lot of times those frameworks can be tweaked slightly and then applied to your organization as well. And then selecting a pool. So once you've gone through this process, you've reached out to your peers, you've reached out to Gartner and other industry resources, you've done some Google searches and some research on the internet about what these companies do, selecting a few of them that you ultimately want to talk to. You've figured out the process, and now you have to narrow it down. we usually recommend 3 to 5 choices that you're speaking with. So once you have your group of providers narrowed down, how do you evaluate them? I can send out to everybody a kind of a list of what these different approach methodologies are, but to just go on a very high level, present your needs, your budget, preferably, and evaluate each of their providers based on their profile, their number of employees, and the cost-value proposition that they bring to the table. The point here about supported technologies is huge, especially in the small and medium business space. And what I mean by that is the ideal provider will be brand agnostic. Any organization out there has obviously made a significant investment in some type of security tools already. In a lot of cases, we find firewalls, we find endpoint protection, we find IDS, IPS solutions already in place. And in order to maximize the investment that your organization has already made in security, it's critically important that whatever vendor you select is able to support the existing infrastructure that's there. Additionally, 24/7 versus an on-call arrangement. Do you want somebody who's watching your network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, so when something happens on Christmas Day, you get a live person? Or do you want an automated alert and then a call follow-up? Additionally, automated versus people-driven. How are these alerts reported? Are they investigated first? We find a lot of automated tools provide additional noise into the equation, and eventually, if your IT staff is getting woken up in the middle of the night because somebody went to a non-malicious Chinese website, that just provides noise. And that means that future security alerts that may be actionable and require some remediation activity aren't carried out and aren't investigated with the level in which they should be. So I'll send out some descriptions of kind of drilling into the weeds of what the rest of these evaluation methodologies are after we complete the WebEx. So once your company has evaluated their providers, they should look at the profile of the MSP that they're ultimately down selecting to be considered to submit a proposal. The company's profile should be a large factor in your decision-making process, or you could find that some of these factors aren't as important as your organization's provider's ability to meet needs from a technical and budget standpoint. Regardless, it's important to know who you're getting in bed with. Start by evaluating the basic makeup of the company. What's their size? A very large organization will have a very well-defined process, but may lack some of the agile abilities to adapt to your organization. A smaller company may be very responsive to your needs, but lack the rigorous process that an MSP should be providing. Generally, the sweet spot is between these two. Neither of these are set in stone, but they're useful bits of information which will help you understand the company you're working with. A metric I find useful is industry experience. Driven by a quota to sell additional services, or is it driven by an actual need or an actual service delivery model that maximizes the value of the investment you're making in the tools? It shouldn't be a sole factor in your decision, but it's something to think about when evaluating an MSP that's asking you to change every bit of your infrastructure before you've even received the first alert from them. Additionally, the cost-value ratio. Regardless of the size of your business, if you don't have a strong security posture, it's not a question of if you'll get hacked, it's a question of when, or if you have been already. Managed security services help businesses gain visibility, meet compliance, and lower their overall IT costs. By partnering with a strong MSSP, you are utilizing the experienced security analysts and monitoring of the health of your overall network 24/7 by 365, allowing your employees to focus on projects that are core to the organization's core to your organization's values and objectives. But also look for a solution that's built on scalability. If you're a mid-sized organization with plans for growth, look for a security provider that can support your needs and technologies today, as well as support your future growth. Look for an organization that understands budget constraints and works with customers to help ensure that their goals are met, not only by establishing your current goals, but establishing your future goals and working with you to develop a roadmap on how to get there. This is where we really get fun. Selecting a provider. The implementation process around selecting a provider should be heavily communicated between the provider and between your own internal staff. Oftentimes, this process will require downtime that could affect your business, and communication, especially on the implementation phase, is key. Planning ahead with the implementation process, which should be done in the form of a dialogue between the provider and the customer, should be maintained. This is the most important step of the process because it ensures a successful deployment from both a provider and from a customer standpoint, and ensures a swift transition. The implementation phase also lays the groundwork for communication between the IT team and their managed service provider, remediating and responding to risks. Once the solutions have been implemented, it's time to test and see what risks and what vulnerabilities exist inside of the environment. In the early phases, post-implementation process work will be done and high alerts will be available. What that basically means is that there are issues that have been sitting on any network that a strong managed service provider examines that haven't been responded to. They haven't been remediated, and they've just been kind of sitting there stagnating. When a strong managed service provider goes in, within the first few weeks, they found several of these issues and are really working closely with information technology staff to remediate, to quickly identify, and to quickly plug these holes. Scaling. Scaling your solution is just as vital to the success of this deployment as selecting a strong vendor. Having a solution that's versatile, that'll grow with your organization, but will also implement with changes that your organization may make as it grows. Being able to provide the solution that matches your current needs and aligning them against what your future business needs are is critical to the success of having a solution perform as it's intended. But at the same time, you should be able to have some versatility with your provider in the relationship you have as well. If you enter a relationship with an MSSP to begin rapidly growing your business, the MSSP needs to meet the needs today and meet the needs growing. Bandwidth and current capacity should be re-examined on an ongoing basis to ensure that not only you're delivering the maximum security posture to your organization, but you're also factoring in things like bandwidth and other items inside your organization that tend to become obsolete or tend to need to be scaled as an organization can grow. A true security provider has these things in their back burner. They're looking at that in the support of their service delivery, and they're able to provide guidance to your organization on an ongoing basis about needs and improvements that need to be made within the environment. The next chart we have, and again, these will be provided to attendees after the fact, is just comparing TruShield to other MSSPs. Any managed security service provider will monitor, collect, and store your event logs. They'll provide you reports, they'll provide threat management, and they'll provide a predictable cost, which is really the value in going with a managed service provider. You know what it's going to cost today, you know what it's going to cost next month, you know what it's going to cost next year. Where TruShield sets them apart is in their 24/7 by 365 unlimited analysis and incident response. Whether you have one alert on your network or whether you have 1,000, we're responding in a way that we've predefined in the terms of engagement with your organization. We also set ourselves apart because we allow you to bring your own technology. If you have a SIM tool already, if you've made the investment and you have that tool that it's collecting information from your organization and reporting on it, we have the ability to integrate that into our proprietary NetWarden device and into our 24/7 by 365 monitoring. We're not an organization that's going to come in and it's going to ask you to purchase all of our tools in order to support the delivery of our service. We're going to work with what's there. Additionally, we're compliancy independent. We work with PCI, SOC, FISMA, HIPAA, ISO, you name it. We have a demonstrated track record of success around helping our clients achieve compliance. Additionally, our unified management platform, it allows great insight into the security events that are happening inside of your organization in real time. Not that anybody would want to, but if you want to go in and actually watch a log feed from a specific device in your organization, you have the ability to do that. But we drill further down still. We deploy technologies such as web gateways or URL filtering. We have the ability to manage your multi-factor authentication, to manage your threat intelligence, and to manage your endpoint protection of devices. And we have expertise around all of these technologies inside of the organization. We have the ability to do forensic work, malware. We have the ability to build in disaster recovery and business continuity planning. And we require no additional infrastructure from the customer. Selecting TruShield, we have the ability to go into your organization to deploy our own infrastructure around your existing systems. We're not going to drop VMs into your environment. We're not going to tax your production servers in any way. We operate completely independent of your existing infrastructure. So with that wrapped, I think Robin had mentioned at the beginning, if you have any questions around this presentation or anything that comes up from it, go ahead and enter them into the questions box now. We'll take a quick pause and then come back and answer any questions that came out of this presentation. Okay, so we have a couple questions that have just come in. The first one from Brad. We already have a security specialist on staff. What's the need for an MSSP? That's a good question, and it speaks directly to not only preserving your internal security presence and your security specialist, but also doubling down on the way that an MSSP can monitor your network. Presumably, your security specialist on staff is coming in, they're looking at the events from the previous day, and they're responding and they're remediating to those as they see fit. That's great. But that doesn't protect you when your security specialist is on vacation. It doesn't protect you when your security specialist is called into an all-day meeting. It provides you with a level of internal protection, but it doesn't really give you the overarching support that your organization needs. The value there, and TruShield has a demonstrated track record of working with other security professionals that are customers, is to offload the basic monitoring of the network. Letting your security professional focus on diversifying your resources, vulnerability management, penetration testing, and working other relationships to ensure the operational security of your network while taking the monitoring piece out of the equation. Offloading that to another organization who has the ability to just reach deeper than that security professional does. Additionally, leveraging and taking the institutional knowledge about your network's traffic flow, your network's security architecture and posture, working with that individual, but handing that off to an MSSP becomes very valuable, because when somebody comes along and offers that security specialist their dream job, they're going to leave, and they're going to take a lot of institutional knowledge with them. Having that held by an individual company instead of an individual is represents a huge value to the organization. Okay, we have a question from Gus, who asks, what's your target market industry or size? 5 to 25 users, 25 to 500, or 500 and above. Our target industry, our sweet spot, is inside of the 25 to 500 range. However, we have our solution scales. So we price our solution based on the number of devices that we're monitoring and the size of the infrastructure. We've scaled it up to private industry and government agencies well over 500 users. We've also scaled it back to organizations with as few as 20 users. The value of pricing based on device and pricing based on protected endpoint is really that you can get a model that scales well. And any MSP that's offering you a proposal should be able to demonstrate the track record they have for scaling their solution. So it really allows us, TruShield specifically, to play in all sizes of business and to really provide solutions for this complex challenge of security to businesses of all sizes. But Gus, to directly answer your question, 25 to 500 and 500 above is really our two main sweet spots for providing our services. All right. We have Dave, who comes in and says, our IT department conducts regular assessments of our environment. How would an MSSP be able to assist with fixing issues that are discovered? Okay, Dave, that's a really good question, and it actually, from taking off my MSSP hat and putting on my security professional hat, it raises some concerns to me as well. So let's focus first on the core issue of your question here, and that is, how would an MSSP be able to assist with fixing issues? I'll speak back to my earlier slide about a trusted advisor role that an MSSP plays. So an MSSP was able to assist in providing guidance and remediating security issues that are both raised from a constant and ongoing scanning basis, but also from some tests that may fall outside of what we can monitor from a traditional SOC. So say, for example, your IT department conducts a USB drop, and we find that users picked up an infected USB stick, plugged it into their computer, installed some malware, and all of a sudden you have an infected endpoint. An MSSP would be able to detect that and prevent that from the monitoring level, but a trusted advisor and a trusted MSSP could also say, hey, maybe we should have a conversation around putting something like user device controls on your roadmap. Maybe your users shouldn't be able to just plug any USB device that they found laying on the ground outside of your office into their endpoint. And so we really are able to add value not only from the monitoring perspective, but also from the evaluation of new tools and from the road mapping perspective. Now, taking off our MSSP hat, IT departments conducting regular assessments of your environment is a very good thing. And it's something that not a lot of organizations do right now. But the question I'd pose there as well is who's watching the watchers? An IT department who has very vast knowledge of an information system and of the way an information system is configured are in a good position to really be able to assess it, but how impartial are they? So I would also stress, kind of around that same question, reaching out and finding a provider who can not only provide you with a managed services solution, but who can also provide you with a penetration test or a network architecture review should be something that's on your radar for the next year, just to kind of align the results that the IT department gives you with the results that a trusted third party gives you. Okay, and I have one more question here from Chris, who asks, how often should I reevaluate my MSSP and their security solution? That's a good one. MSSPs are generally going to offer and deliver their services on a contract basis, usually offering discounts for different levels of service. So obviously you'll pay less for a 3-year contract than you would for a 1, than you would for a month-to-month. The reevaluation period really depends on what the needs of your organization are and how well the MSSP is meeting it. As I said before in this presentation, a strong MSSP will evaluate your needs on an ongoing basis and will work with your organization to provide you with a roadmap, a plan to move forward. If they're not doing that, I'd encourage you to reevaluate as soon as possible. With that said, I think it's also valuable as contracts come up, obviously aligning whatever budget you have with whatever deal you've signed with your MSSP. I'd say the natural jumping off point there is as those contracts become due, getting back out in the market and taking a look at what other providers are out there. The security landscape is changing very quickly, and provider services are changing in line with that. So how quickly your provider is able to respond and is able to offer to their customers the latest technologies and services really delivers the maximum level of value to your organization. So there's really not a defined framework there, but I'd say as your contracts are due, definitely take some time to reevaluate those relationships. And that concludes our questions. If you have one you're sitting on, chime in the next 30 seconds or so. Otherwise, we'll hand it back to Robin. Okay, well, no more questions. Like I said in the beginning, if you get off the webinar and think of something else, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I love answering emails and talking security, so definitely don't hesitate. And I'll turn it back over to our coordinator, Robin, to wrap up this webinar.
All right, thank you so much, Eric. That was a great webinar, very informative. As Eric said, you can reach out to him with the information he provided on his About Eric page, or you can also reach out to him or any one of our security specialists through our Contact Us page on our website. So just a reminder, all of the slides and the recorded version of this webinar will be emailed to you. And be sure to visit our website and check out some of the other great webinars that we have coming up in the next few months. So thank you everybody so much for attending.
Thank you everybody for your time today. And again, don't hesitate to reach out with your security concerns and challenges. We love to help.